Hello and welcome to a new video on YouTube channel of tutorialspedia.com. This is another video in MuleSoft playlist covering a very interesting topic related to MuleSoft continuous integration, continuous delivery. We are going to see how we can build and do the deployment automation using Jenkins pipeline in MuleSoft. Let's look into the topics that we are going to cover in this video tutorial. First of all, I will explain about the prerequisite which are required in order to proceed with this video tutorial for Jenkins CI/CD. We will see that how we can ensure that we have Java, we have Maven, and we have Git set up already in our machines, and we will do the verification and make sure that everything is ready in order to proceed. Once we are confident about the prerequisite, then we will do a basic implementation of a Mule project in Anypoint Studio, and we will see that how we can push the code to the GitHub, and then we will do the required deployment configurations in our pom.xml file, and I'll explain what are the required configurations for the Maven plugin that we need to do in order to enable our project to be to be able to get deployed into Cloudhub based on the Jenkins pipelines. Once we are done with the setup of our basic project and it has been pushed to Git, then we will see that how we can do the setup of Jenkins. We should have Jenkins also installed, and we will see that how we can do different type of plugin related setups and how we can ensure that all required plugins in Jenkins are installed. And once we have everything in terms of the required plugins ready in our Jenkins, then we will see that how we can create the required pipeline items, and we will see that how we can have different pipeline items for code checkout, for code build, and code deployment. And we will configure it in a way that whenever we do commit to our GitHub repository, this should automatically trigger the code checkout, and then subsequently code build and code deployment should happen. And last but not least, we will verify the deployment in Cloudhub, and we will make sure that the deployment that we have done is in started phase. So now let's jump into the actual part of this video tutorial without further ado. So the first thing that we need to do is to ensure that we have all the required features installed, or all the prerequisites are met. The first important thing is that we should have Java installed in our machine. That we can do in command line using java-version, and if everything is fine and if you have Java installed, you can verify using this command. I can do the echo Java home as well to make sure that Java home is set, and we can see that we have Java JDK 1.8 already installed and Java home is set. Second thing that we need to confirm is that we should have Maven installed in our machine. So mvn-version, and it should give me details about the Maven plugin and Maven setup in my machine. And we can see that Apache Maven 3.8.1 is already available in my machine. So we are good with Maven as well as with Java. The third thing that we need to make sure that is available is we should have our Git client installed. So for that, if I just go to my machine, if I do git bash, I can verify that git bash is already installed. So once we are confirmed that we have everything installed, then we can proceed. But for you, if you want to do if you want to install all these things, let me give you the links from where you can download all this. I'll put the links for this downloads in the description as well. So if you want to download Git, you will have to go to git-scm.com/downloads, and depending on your OS, you can download Git and you can install it. For me, it was Windows, so I did Windows setup. For the Maven, you will have to go to maven-apache.org/download.cgi, and from here you can download. So what I did, I downloaded from this and just extracted it, and then the bin path of your Maven you have to put it into your environment variables. Let me show you that environment variable that I set. So bin path of Maven needs to be there in order to work with it. So let me open the path. You can see that I have a Maven path, a Maven bin directory path already in my path variable. So this is the second thing, and I will talk about Jenkins next. But you have to install Jenkins as well and set it up. So in order to download and set up Jenkins, you will have to go to jenkins.io/downloads. From here, you can download based on your OS any of the version that you want. For me, I downloaded Windows version for this Jenkins, and I downloaded its MSI or exe and just installed it. So if you are having your machine where you don't have Git and don't have Maven or Java or Jenkins already set up, you will have to go through all these links and download the required setup and set it up. For me, since it's already set up, so I will proceed with the next step, where what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a new repository in my Git, in my GitHub account. So you also need a GitHub account. Make sure that you have a GitHub account created. You can go github.com and you can set up your account. If in case if you already have an account, as in my case, I already have an account, so I'll just go to my account and let me refresh it just in case if it's already logged out. Yeah, it's logged in. So I have to create a new repository. I'll click on new. You can do it from the plus button on the top right as well, and let me name it as ci-cd-tutorialspedia, and let me give just a simple description, a simple demo of MuleSoft CI/CD. I'll keep it public and I'll click on create repository. So once your repository has been created, then here you can see a set of commands that you can run, and then you can have your git. If you already have your git installed as a git client installed on your machine, then you can run using these git bash. Using git bash, you can run these commands, and then later you can proceed with adding all of your changes to your GitHub repository, pushing, committing, and then subsequently you will be going with the CI/CD steps. So for this purpose, I already created a folder, a blank folder with Mule CI/CD in my C drive. So if I open Git Bash, let me open Git Bash directly over here. So I'll right click and I'll choose this Git Bash here. You have Git GUI also, but I'll prefer command line option for now. So I'll click on Git Bash here. So once I use Git Bash here, then I will have to run these commands. So let me explain these commands. The first command is just creating a README file. So echo, and then whatever you are writing, that you are writing into readme.md file. You can write anything. So let me do this step. So I'll write echo tutorialpedia demo CI/CD. This is the content that I'm going to write into readme.md file. So the file has been created. Now I'll go with the next subsequent command, git init. So I'm going to initialize my git repository, and then I will choose git add. You can put dot, but if you know the file name, you can just write the file name as well. So this file is going to be added, but it has been added into the local repository, and now you have to commit, and with dash m you will provide any comment. I will write initial commit. So this is just a commit comment. Whatever comment you want to write, you can write over here. And now I have to specify the branch, git branch. Since we did not create any additional branches, so we have only man branch, so I'll write git branch dash m man. So now I'm pointing to the man branch for my repository. And now git remote, let me copy this. So this is the path of the remote GitHub repository that we just created. So I'll take this command and I'll run it from git bash. So once you have run this command, the next step is to do git push dash u origin, and I'll write man. So basically what we have done is that we have created GitHub repository, and then we have uh, checked it out into our local repository in our Git, and then what we have done is that we have created a README file, and after that we have committed it and we have pushed it to the main. So if I go to GitHub now and refresh it, I should see all the changes here, whatever I have committed. So you can see we have only one file, readme.md, with the whatever comment I put, and this is all over here. Now what I need to do is that I need to create the actual project in Anypoint Studio, and I'll give the same path. So the project will be lying here. So as soon as I'll create a project, whatever project files will get created, those files will be here. And from here, then subsequently, once I have made all the required changes, I will push the changes to the GitHub repository. So I already opened my Anypoint Studio. I'm going to create a new project. I'll choose new Mule project, and here I have to specify the path. I don't use default, rather I'm going to give the path to MuleSoft CI/CD. Let's not change the name, put it say mules-CI/CD, and I'll just click on finish. So once I create this project into the Mule CI/CD folder in my C drive, which is already pointing to the main repository in my GitHub account, I should be able to make any changes to this project, and later I should be able to commit and then push those changes to the MuleSoft related repository that I created in GitHub. So the project is getting created. We will have to wait for the project to get created. You can see that all the files which automatically get created related to the Anypoint Studio based Mule project have been added over here. So if you go to, let me clear it. If you go to git bash, and if I now try git status, I should be able to see that there are certain files. So I should be able to see the details that there are certain files which are untracked, because we did not add, we did not commit, and we didn't push all these files. But we have to wait. We have to make our required changes, and only then we will go with the option of pushing all of the changes to our GitHub repository. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a very simple flow over here with the HTTP listener. What I want is that I want to create a simple flow with HTTP listener, where I'll be just returning some JSON response for the request that will be sent to this listener, this endpoint, and that will be a simple implementation, because the focus of this tutorial is to explain CI/CD steps, not the implementation related to any of the message flows has already been covered in various other tutorials in this playlist, which you can always refer to. So now I have to configure this HTTP listener. We will keep it simple and we will keep it default on port 8081 localhost. Let's not play around with it and keep it as is. And once you have set up HTTP protocol host and port, then the next thing that we will have to do is we will have to specify the path. That will be the context URL for this HTTP based endpoint. I'm experiencing a bit slowness in my machine because I have many things running for this tutorial, and let's so CI/CD. Okay, so I will put /CI/CD. So it will be localhost colon 8081 /CI/CD. And the next thing that I want to do is I just want to add a transform message operation or activity from the core module. And here I will just make a simple JSON message that will be returned as a response. So let me change it to JSON, and here I'll write time. So I want to just return current date and time using now function. Pretty simple, nothing else, nothing fancy. So once we have created this very simple solution, next thing that we have to do is that we have to add required information in our pom.xml file to be able to make this project deployed automatically using Jenkins. If you go to pom.xml, you will see that we have a plugin with the name with group ID org.mule.tools.maven. So in this plugin, inside this configuration, we have to add certain configurations which are required in order to be able to uh, make this project automatically deployable into the Cloudhub. So let me paste the required configurations over here, which I already written and copied, and let me explain all of these required configurations. Okay, so let me see if, yeah, I'll zoom it a bit so that you can see it properly. So the required configuration should be inside this Cloudhub deployment, and all of the required configurations should be nested inside this. So the first thing is that you have to specify the URI, which will be anypoint.mulesoft.com, and then you will have to specify MuleSoft version. Let me make it 4.3.0 instead of 4.2.2, and then you have to specify the username, and this username and password should be your anypoint platform username and password. I'm exposing my password because I will change my password just before I upload this video, so no worries. And then after username and password, you have to specify the name of your application. So I'll name it as CICD-tutorialspedia. And environment, you have to specify sandbox if you want to deploy it in sandbox. And number of workers, you will specify one. Worker type micro, and after that you have to specify object store v2. By default its value is false, but you have to specify it as true, otherwise you face failure while you are deploying. So once you have added all these configurations, just save it. And once you have saved it, now the next step that you need to do is that you have to push all your changes into the cloud into the GitHub repository. So I'll go here, let me clear it, and after clearing I will again run git status just to verify that I have many files which need to be which are untracked and which need to be added and committed and pushed. So I'll use git add, and if you don't want to specify a specific file name, you can write git add dot. So it's going to add all of the files, and then you will write git commit dash m, and you have to put your comment, whatever comment you want to add. I will write mule project edit to repository. And once you have done your commit, then you have to put you have to use git push, and once you push, all the changes that you committed should be pushed to your remote repository in your GitHub. So now once I have done the git push, let me go to GitHub repository and refresh it. And if you refresh it, you can see that you have all of the files which were there as part of your Anypoint Studio project have been pushed to your GitHub repository. So up till this point, we have what we have done is that we have verified the prerequisite, and after that we have created a GitHub repository. And once we have created a GitHub repository, and then we have created a project, and we have pushed all our changes from the project into the GitHub repository. And before doing that, we have made sure that we have ensured that all of the required configuration in pom.xml in the Maven plugin has also been added. So this has been done. Now what we need to do is that we need to switch to Jenkins, and we have to proceed with the subsequent steps that are required in Jenkins. So the Jenkins by default, uh, whatever port you specify, for example, in my case, it's running on port 8086. Let me refresh and sign in. I will use default username and password admin. And once you log into your Jenkins, you have to choose this new item option, and you have to create your pipeline items. So the first item that I want to create is uh, tutorialspedia dash checkout. I'm just putting Tutorialspedia as a prefix for no reason, just because it's on Tutorialspedia YouTube channel. That's why. Otherwise, the project itself doesn't have anything to do with Tutorialspedia. And then you have option to choose Maven project, pipeline, and I'll choose freestyle project to make it simple, and I'll click on OK. Once you click on OK, now you have to, if you want to add any description, you can write here. In this step, we will check out code from GitHub. So this is just a description that I'm adding. And then you have to click on this advanced. And what I want to do is that I want to use custom workspace. So I'll choose this use custom workspace, and I'll specify the directory where the code from GitHub repository should be checked out. So let me show you the repository. I already have a temp repository which I'll use for this purpose. So I'll just copy the path and put it here. And after that, here in the source code management, you have to specify that from where you want this code to be cloned, or from where you want this code to be checked out. So I'll choose Git, and here you have to specify repository URL, and here you have to specify the credentials. So the credentials, before that, let me add repository URL. I'll go to my GitHub, and if you click on this code, you can see for HTTPS you have this path. This is the path to your repository, so you'll just click on this and you will copy it. And once you have copied it, put the repository URL over here. And then for credentials, if you haven't already added, for example, in my case, I already added the account credentials for my GitHub. But if you haven't, you can click on this add button, add, and then click on Jenkins, and you have to provide username and password for your GitHub account. But for me, I already added, so I'll just select. And then here you have to specify the branch. For me, it's man branch, so I'll click. I will choose */man. After that, you have the option that how you want this build to be triggered. And if you see here, you have plenty of options available. So I'll choose poll SCM. And why I'm choosing poll SCM, because I want to have a cron tab cron command here. So based on the cron job, I want that every minute my repository should be polled, and if there is any new commit, that should trigger this step. So that should trigger this build, which is actually a checkout. So the code will get checked out if there is any new commit to the code in my GitHub repository. So for the schedule, I will write like this: */1, then I will put additional *. And if you see here, it says, do you really mean every minute when you say */1? So yes, I mean it. So I want that every minute my GitHub repository should be pulled for any new commits that have been added. After that, what I want to do is that for the build, once I will create another item, I will update this one post build actions, because I would like that once code has been checked out, there should be second step automatically triggered, which is code build, and then after that there should be code deployment. But since I haven't defined that, so I'll just save it. So now I go back to the dashboard. You can see that we have one item already there. So I'll click again on new item, and now I will name it as Tutorialspedia build. So this is going to be the build step, where I will choose again freestyle project, and I click on OK. And once I click on this OK button, in this case, what I'm going to do, I'm going to build my code. So in the description, I will write, in this step, code will be built using maven command. And then after that, again, I'll click on its advanced option, and I'll choose the custom workspace, which we already used for the checkout. So I'll use the same, and I will put it here. This is going to be the directory, and then source code management none, because in this case the code is going to be picked up from the checked out code in the path that we specified above. And in the build trigger, we will not put anything, because it will be triggered based on the completion of the previous step, which is code checkout. And I'll update this post build action later. So I'll just save it. But now I need to go back and I need to update the checkout. For the checkout, I will go and I'll choose configure option and I will update it, and in the post build option I want to add an action, and the action here is build other project. So I'll choose build other project and here I will choose tutorialspedia build. So what I want is that once the code has been checked out, it should automatically start the next project, which is the next step of building the project. And I will click on save. Now I will go to dashboard and I will add the third. Oh, sorry, I missed one step. In the tutorialspedia build, I need to go to configure once again. And in the build, I need to specify what I want to do. So here I want to specify the action that I want. So I will choose execute Windows batch command because I want to run a Windows batch command, which is a maven command, in order to build the project. So the command that I want to run in order to build is this mvn space clean space install. So this will build and create a jar file. So I'll save it. And the third and the last step which I want is that I want to have another item which is going to be, I will name it tutorialspedia deploy, and I'll choose freestyle project and I'll click on OK. And let me give a description that in this step project will get deployed in Cloudhub. And here again, let me choose custom workspace and specify the path. And once you have specified the path, the next thing that you need to do is that you have to specify the build option, and you will choose again execute Windows batch command, and here you will execute the batch command for the deployment. So the command that we will use is mvn package deploy -t mule deploy. And this is an important thing that I would like to highlight here, that what I have done for our project is that all of the username, password, and other details, including which environment we want to build, etc. Everything I have hard coded in the pom.xml file. But in real scenarios, you can make that also configurable with arguments. And what you can do is that you can pass those arguments from here in this command. But for the sake of simplicity, for this case, because I'm building it and deploying it in only one environment, so I'm putting everything hard coded. So after this, since this is a deploy step, so there is no post build action, so I'll click on save. So another thing that I should have explained before, but I just forgot, is that you need to make sure that once you have your Jenkins installed, all of the required plugins are already there. So I'll go to manage plugins. I'll show you whatever I already have, because the required plugins should be there. So you will go to manage plugins, and if I go to installed, basically for this tutorial you need plugin available for Git, you need plugin available for Maven, and you need for pipeline integration. So if I go here, you can see, let me search it. If I search Git, you can see that I have Git client, all GitHub related plugins already installed. Similarly, if I go to Maven, you can see that I have Maven plugin also installed. And if I go for pipeline integration plugin, you will see that pipeline integration plugin should also be installed already. We can see pipeline integration plugin is already installed. So in your case, make sure that you install all these plugins, only then proceed with creation of your required steps in Jenkins. So right now what we have done is that we have created all the items. We haven't created a pipeline yet, but still if we try to commit something, that should trigger first step, which is tutorials.pdf checkout, and then subsequently build and deploy should happen. So let me now show you my Anypine platform account and see that nothing is there, and we will have to deploy this from the scratch. So I have logged into my anypint.mulesoft.com account with my username and password. For you also, you need to have an account here in order to deploy anything, and you should use the same username and password that you already specified in your Maven plugin Cloudhub configuration. And once you log in, if you go to runtime manager, for now, for me, you can see that I don't have any application deployed. So whatever we will deploy, that will be the first application. Okay, so now let me go to my Anypoint Studio, and or I can go to GitHub in my Git bash, and I can make any changes which should be committed to my Anypoint, to my GitHub repository. And once any commit happens, every minute since we have set the polling for the code checkout, so code should be checked out, and subsequently code build and code deploy should happen. So let me create a new file and edit. So what I will do, I will let clear it. I will just create a new dummy file and commit it. Echo dummy file. This is the content, and I'm write dummy.txt, and I will add this to my Git repository. Git add dummy.txt, and I will do git commit dash m, and I'll write dummy commit, and then after that I'll just do git push. So once I push this new file should get added into our git repository, and that should result in triggering the uh, git checkout in our Jenkins. So let me go to GitHub and verify that this, so you can see that dummy.txt has been committed. So based on this commit, what we are expecting is that our tutorialpedia checkout item should start. So this job should start. So let's wait, and within 1 minute, this repository should get pulled, and which we should see that this tutorialspedia checkout should happen. So we are waiting for, and we will be seeing this in build queue and then build executor status. Right now nothing has happened, so let's wait for a few more seconds. You can see in the queue we have tutorialspedia checkout. So it's in queue, so now in a while it should start. We can see that now in the build executor status we have tutorialspedia checkout happening, and if we just refresh it, we can see success. So our checkout has been happened successfully. If we go to temp folder where we have done the checkout, we already see that the code has been successfully checked out. So once it has been checked out, we should see that subsequent step, which is build, should start. And we can see here that tutorialspedia build is now in progress. So this build is going to create the required deployable artifact, which is a jar file, and it is happening. You can see the status here that it's already happening, and if you want you can always go to click on this and go to uh, let me go here, click on this. Yeah, you can go to console output, and you can verify from here as well. If there is anything wrong, you will be able to see here. So this console output is showing us information, and building of our project is in progress. So once it will be completed, we will be able to see the success over here. It will take some time, and once it is done we will see. So you can see build is successful. So we have successfully built, and now the next step, which is the deployment step, should get triggered automatically. Let's go back to the dashboard, and we can see blue color and success for both checkout and build. And now we are waiting for the deployment. I think let me see in the build, did I already configured uh, auto trigger for the deployment or not? Maybe I missed. So I'll go to configure and verify. And yeah, actually after build, I did not configure the deployment. So that was my mistake. So in the post build, I have to choose action of build other project, and here I will have to specify tutorialspedia deploy. So I save it. Since it was not done, so we will have to redo. So what I'll do, I'll just do another commit. I will do for the same file. I'll and just add it. I'll just commit. I'm doing nothing different. I'm just trying to have another push. So this second push that I'm doing, it should trigger all of the three steps: checkout, build, and deploy. Previously, deploy did not happen because deployment was not set as the post build option for the tutorialspedia build job. So now we will be observing that first we will have checkout, after that we will have build, and after that we should have deployment. Let's wait for a few seconds to start the checkout and then build and then deployment. It hasn't yet started. So the polling is happening every minute. So within a minute, anytime, this checkout should start after we have done the commit to our Git repository. So yeah, we can see now checkout is in the queue. So checkout will happen just now, and after the checkout we will see that build will happen. So checkout will not take much time. It is completed successfully, and now we should be seeing tutorialspedia build job getting started in a while. We can see tutorialspedia build is in progress. So let's wait for the build to complete, and then this time we should be observing tutorialspedia deploy job should also get automatically triggered on the completion of build. So build is in progress, so we will have to wait a little for it to complete. If you want, you can always go to console logs and see the status, and normally if anything goes wrong, that helps you a lot. So now you can see tutorialspedia deploy, the third job, that's also in the queue, and once it starts, then it will do the actual deployment into the Cloudhub. Right now if you go to the Cloudhub, we see nothing, which means that we haven't seen any building any deployment yet. So deployment will take some time. So let's go back, and if I click on this, and if I go to console output, let's keep an eye just in case if anything goes wrong, the message will be here. For example, if you miss something in your configuration, as an example, if you missed uh, object store version 2, if you didn't set it to true, or if you put anything wrong in terms of username and password, or any other mistake that you make, you will be able to observe details about that error and that mistake over here in this console, and then you can take any corrective actions required. For us, so far so good. We are seeing that we don't have anything wrong, and if I go here, you can see that CI/CD tutorialspedia is in the status of deploying, so it's going to get deployed in a while. So everything seems good. If it goes into the started phase, then that will started status, that will mean that everything went fine. And if we come back and verify, it's still happening, and this job hasn't completed yet. So once it goes to success, everything gets deployed, started, then we will go with the next step of creating a pipeline. Right now we created three jobs for checkout, build, and deployment, but in the real scenarios you can have multiple environments. You can have build for dev environment, QA, staging, and you can have production. and for that you always go with the different pipelines. I'll show you how we can create the pipeline as well to achieve the same. Let's wait for this deployment to be completed. And for this runtime version, we specified 4.3.2. That's why it's shown here. So make sure that when you deploy, you set it to higher value, because if you're creating your project, for example, in 4.2.2, and you set it to something like 4.0 or 3.9 something, that will cause a problem, and you will be able to see that in the console logs as well. So it's still happening, and you can see now the status is started. So everything is good, and it means that our deployment has gone successfully. So now let me stop this, and I will just delete it, and I will create again using the pipeline. So let's stop this, and you can see that the status of our application is undeployed, and I am going to delete it. So the project, so the solution that we deployed in our any point, you can see that it has been deleted. Now let me go back to our Jenkins, and I'll go to Jenkins dashboard, and I click on this plus button, and I will create build a pipeline view. So I'll choose tutorialspedia dash sandbox dash pipeline. So this is the name I'm specifying. Click on OK, and after that, if you want to specify in description, you can always do over here. And for other things, let me see if I need to make any changes. I'll keep it simple. The only thing is initial job. I want to select initial job as checkout, because after checkout, in the post build action, we have build and deployment there. So very simple, and I'll just click on OK. I'll not make any other changes. And if you see here, we have now a pipeline created which has checkout, which has build and deploy option. So if I try to make any commit again, and this pipeline should get triggered, and all the steps within this pipeline should be completed, and the deployment should happen. So let me make the same dummy commit again. Sorry, I have to do add. So I updated the file, I did add, and then I'll do the commit without any new comment, and I'll just push it. So once I push it, this means that our checkout job should get triggered. So now let's wait for the checkout to happen, and then after that build and deployment. So let's keep an eye on our pipeline. This is for the previous case 53 seconds ago. Build duration 5.3 seconds, sorry. So this was the previous one. So we will have to wait, and once we will have that polling happen. After that, checkout, build and deployment should happen. So let's keep an eye on this pipeline. So far it hasn't started, and we can verify once again in our runtime manager also that nothing is there currently deployed, because the previous deployment that we did, we have already removed that. Okay, so let me refresh it again. We can see now checkout is happening, so it's in progress, and checkout is successful, and now build and deployment should happen next. So let's wait for the build is now in progress. So let's wait for the build and then deployment to get completed, and then we will observe that we have our application deployed in our runtime manager in any point platform in the Cloudhub. So we can see build is happening. Once build will be completed, it will move automatically to the deployment. So build is successful. Now it's gonna be in the last step, which is the deployment. In our case, for the sake of simplicity, we didn't add any unit testing or any type of testing steps. We just have checkout, build and deployment. But you can always extend it further to add more into it. But I hope that the basic concepts that I explained will be helpful for you to understand that how you can do the DevOps thing and how you can do the deployment automation. So the deployment is taking place right now. So we will have to wait for the deployment to get completed. So it's already 30 seconds and counting. So it's happening, and this deployment into the Cloudhub always takes a little longer time compared to the checkout and build, because in this case it's actually uh, uh, integrating with the Cloudhub and it's doing the deployment into the runtime. So let's it says estimated remaining time is 2 minutes, but it should happen quickly. So let's wait. And right now, if you go to your runtime manager in any bind, you can see that status is undeployed, but application is there. It means that this application has already uh, reached here. So now it's in the deploying status, and after that it will go into the starting phase and it will get started. So let's go back and see that it's still happening. Around 1 minute is remaining. So we will have to wait for this application to get deployed. Alright, so now you can see that the CI/CD tutorials PD application is in the started phase, which means that it has deployed successfully and it has been started in our runtime. If you see here, the status is still in progress, and there is some delay, and it has already completed. That's it from this video, and I hope that the information that I conveyed from this tutorial is helpful for you. If you have any questions, you can always write in the comment section, and for further reading you can always refer to official documentation of MuleSoft, and you can always go with the other videos in this playlist related to different topics on MuleSoft that I have created, and that will be helpful for you. Thank you very much.